What is immunotherapy?
Well, my definition of immunotherapy is using drugs or cell products or antibodies or whatever we have that stimulates the immune system in the patient's body or delivers to the patient's body new components or new agents that themselves enhance the power of the immune system. And what does the immune system do? It is meant to recognize myeloma cells and ultimately attack the myeloma cells in the hope of suppressing it and even getting rid of it, hopefully eradicating it.
So immunotherapy is a lot of different things. I think the general concept is that immunotherapy is using some aspect of the immune system to fight cancer. It goes from a drug, such as an antibody, and our body normally makes antibodies to recognize and to fight infections. But what we have also now is technology to make what we call monoclonal antibodies. So a whole bunch of antibodies that recognize just one protein. And in myeloma, these antibodies are already in existence. I think the best one is daratumumab that has shown very good clinical promise. Other forms of immunotherapy currently being used in myeloma are something like IMIDs, lenalidomide, thalidomide, pomalidomide. All of these drugs, by modulating and potentially augmenting the ability of our native immune system to fight the myeloma, is immunotherapy to a certain extent. I think vaccines are immunotherapy. They elicit a new immune response that allows the patients to then recognize and better kill the cancer. CAR T cells are immunotherapy. These are T cells that have been activated and modified. And other forms of non-gene modified T cell therapies are immunotherapy. And also checkpoint inhibitors are immunotherapy, and anything else that in the end result leads to an enhanced immune function is considered immunotherapy. So it's a very broad general term.
So immunotherapy in broad terms is the ability of the immune system to fight cancer. And what we've seen over the past few years is that there have been an increasing number of options available for patients with multiple myeloma using the immune system. And in general, we can break that down into a variety of different aspects. Passive immunity is a situation whereby the immunotherapy is sort of used as a drug. That's mostly antibodies. And then there's active immunotherapy. Active immunotherapy is a situation in which we give the patient something that then allows the patient's own system or body to develop an immune response. And typically that is a vaccine. And in fact, the vaccines that we get as children generate an immune response that lasts over our lifetime, so that if we get exposed to measles or mumps or something, as an adult we have this immune response. In myeloma, there are several different therapies that are currently FDA approved and others that are in the process of being developed. So one form of immunotherapy that probably everybody is familiar with in very broad terms are drugs such as Revlimid and pomalidomide. These are developed as what are called immunomodulatory derivatives of a drug known as thalidomide, which was a very old drug. And what it does is that it globally improves the patient's immune system, in addition to fighting the myeloma. So it probably has several roles. And that has really served as a baseline for a lot of other therapies that have been developed, in large part because it can continue to modulate and potentially enhance immune responses. Other drugs that are immunotherapeutic are antibodies, monoclonal antibodies. And so the ones that you're probably familiar with are daratumumab, which is an antibody that targets a protein called CD38 that's present on the plasma cells. And as antibodies that we generate to fight bacteria, this antibody sees this protein that's present on the myeloma cell, and antibodies you can envision as sort of Ys, where the Y part actually binds to the myeloma, and the arm allows the immune system to bind to it to then elicit an immune response from the immune system that basically anchors itself to the long part of the Y. And so the drugs that are currently available, or the antibodies that are currently available, are daratumumab, as I mentioned, And the other one is elotuzumab, or Implicity, which targets another protein called CS1, also present on plasma cells or myeloma cells. These are normally given as drugs because once they die off or get degraded, you have to give some more to continue to elicit this kind of response.
Immunotherapy is this huge buzzword right now in all of cancer. Now, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. At its core level, immunotherapy means using our immune system or giving drugs that work with our immune system to help fight the cancer. If you think about things more broadly, immunotherapy is any drug that targets immune cells, and because myeloma is a cancer of immune cells, essentially all drugs that we use in myeloma are immunotherapy. But specifically in myeloma, when we think of immunotherapy, we think of three big classes of drugs. Drugs we call checkpoint inhibitors, drugs we call bifunctional antibodies, and another class of therapy we call CAR-T. Checkpoint inhibitors are a really interesting immune therapy drug, and the way we think about them is if I tell you you're in a car driving down the highway and I tell you to go faster, most people would say, yeah, I'm going to step on the gas. Another way to think about it is to take your foot off the brake. And that's how checkpoint inhibitors work in cancer. Essentially, our body has natural mechanisms to kill cancer cells, but they're held in check by these checkpoints so that they don't run rampant to attack other cells. If your immune system runs rampant, that's what autoimmune disease is, things like Sjogren's disease and lupus. What these checkpoint inhibitors do is take the brake off a little bit to allow our own body's immune system to attack cancer more vigorously, and it's a very exciting class of drug. Another class is the bifunctional antibodies, and we've heard of monoclonal antibodies. These are immune drugs that target something on the cell surface of the cancer cell to lock on and kill them, like a lock and key. What bifunctional antibodies do is they have two targets, one that grabs a hold of the cancer cell and one that grabs our own immune cell, a T cell, and it makes that T cell fight the cancer. It's a way of letting this drug use our own immune system to better fight the myeloma. And the final, most exciting class is something called CAR-T cells. CAR-T is an acronym that stands for Chimeric Antigen Receptor T cell. In this case, we take a patient and collect their own T cells. Then in the lab, we rev them up with special technology to make them all aggressively fight the cancer. It's like taking first-day cadets out of the Army, putting them in Special Forces training and giving them bazookas. Then we take those T cells and infuse them back into the patient, and that's when they aggressively attack the cancer. So it's a way of modifying our own immune cells to better fight myeloma. This therapy was approved last year for diseases like lymphoma and leukemia, and we're hoping within the next period of time we'll have them available for people in multiple myeloma.